Guys, wouldn't your wife or girlfriend love it if you treated her to the very best this Christmas? Now you can, with the world's softest pajamas by Pajamagram. Created by a team of pajama experts, the world's softest PJs are lighter than a cloud, softer than a bunny, like cashmere, only better. She'll love how heavenly they feel. Includes free gift packaging and Christmas delivery is guaranteed. So visit pajamagram.com or call 1-800-GIVE-PJs.
Welcome to the Right Time Podcast. The Right Time with Bomani Jones.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Right Time. My name is Bomani Jones. Thanks for listening on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app. We are presented by Progressive Insurance. You can send us a tweet at the 1-800-Flowers.com Twitter feed. That is at Bomani_Jones. It is Wednesday. That's when we basically just be making stuff up to talk about. If you got your story about the day you quit playing football, damn it, you better call today. Your time running out anyway in general, but it's way more appreciated today than it is on most. Anyway, Troy Vincent. NFL sends him out there to say things that don't make sense. And I don't even know if it's fair to say that. Like, he's not full on Adolfo. That dude Adolfo is in case of emergency when we need somebody to come out here and say something that don't make sense. But it's like Troy Vincent does the, like, day-to-day stuff that does not make sense. Anyway, you know, been a little bit of a rough week in the NFL. Your man Gronk got that suspension for hitting a dude that was laying down on his stomach. Juju Smith-Schuster got his 1-game suspension. George Aloka, he got a suspension for something in that same game where Juju wound up getting suspended. Now, the Aloka suspension has been overturned. Looks like my man there is just going to get a fine. Juju's suspension was upheld. I was surprised. I thought it was going to wind up being overturned. And Gronk's suspension, to the surprise of very few, wound up being upheld. So Gronk's being suspended for a game. Juju Smith-Schuster is being suspended for a game. It's a little bit confusing here to a degree. Troy Vincent said that the Gronk, they don't have a framework for suspending people for plays that don't take place during the action, like non-football stuff. Apparently, they don't have a set of rules for that, which tells you everything about just how reactionary the NFL is, that nobody stopped to think about having some sort of, like, set of some protocol for what to do if a dude gets hit in a football game, but it's not in the middle of the play, as if that sort of thing never happens. Right? No one thought about that. All they had was whatever time it was, and somebody was like, oh, snap, we got to do something about this. And then somebody popped up and like, okay, cool, this is what we're going to do. Anyway, I was surprised that Smith-Schuster wound up being suspended because I do not feel like the hit that he got suspended for was something that they've really been working to eradicate from the game. I thought that was a head-on swivel situation. I thought that was kind of all that's fair because I did not think what he did was dirty. He just got caught on one of those that makes me very uncomfortable, which is we're going to suspend you for hitting somebody too hard in a game where hitting people hard is like a thing. It can get you in the Hall of Fame. But no, apparently he got one for hitting Buddy too hard. The hit that Iloka had on Antonio Brown absolutely looked like one that they have been trying to get rid of. Somewhat, but not terribly different than the one that Vontaze Burfict got 3 games for hitting Antonio Brown in the postseason. I thought that would be one they held up, if nothing else, because his whole program was, I am going to eliminate you. Why am I going to eliminate you? Because I need you to not catch the ball. And that is something they have absolutely tried to eradicate from the game. So I was surprised. But they said Troy Vincent out there to be the dude that don't make no sense. And Troy Vincent said a couple things. One, that taunting was not a factor in the Smith-Schuster suspension. And I have a hard time believing that. Like, I feel like that hit does not go over the way it does if Juju doesn't stand over the cat. But the other thing my man said was, they are thinking about implementing the college targeting rule in order to try to stop these guys from getting hit like that over the middle. And all that tells me is they just be sending these cats out here to say anything, because I was not under the impression that anybody thought that college targeting rule was one that worked or one that made any sense. You may recall this a few years ago, the NCAA decided we're going to put up all the window dressing we can to make you feel like this game is safe. One part of the window dressing that you may remember was dudes were getting their helmets knocked off. And when the dudes would get their helmets knocked off, the NCAA said that you had to leave the field for one play if your helmet got knocked off. And this is happening to quarterbacks, and it wound up having an unfortunate set of negative externalities, which was the things that players were doing to make sure that their helmets stayed on were things that also weren't necessarily safe for them. But the stakes are too high for Taj Boyd to have his helmet get knocked off. They just were. But this targeting rule where if you get somebody going over the middle and hit him in the head, it is an ejection. And then what they do is they go and they look at it on the replay. And if it still looks like targeting on the replay, then the ejection is rescinded. But the 15-yard penalty that went along with the ejection still stays in place. So to recap, they could go check on the penalty, find out that the penalty was erroneously applied, but you still have to give up 15 yards. Yeah, you go ahead and you put that in the NFL. You let me know how that one winds up going. They keep trying to make the cigarette safer, ignoring the fact that it is, in fact, a cigarette. You can try to make this football ultra light if you want to, but it is still going to wind up being football. There's no way that you're going to wind up changing that. So these cats are going to come across the middle, and they're going to catch the ball, and like humans, sometimes they're going to curl up and make themselves small. Sometimes they're going to go low. You are now going to ask the players that are coming to hit them to also go low so they try not to hit somebody in the head. Well, what winds up being the problem? The head goes low, these dudes go low, dudes still get hit in the head. You know why dudes still get hit in the head? That sort of thing happens in football. That's why the dudes still wind up getting hit in the head. And the NFL, I really don't know what it is for them to do. They are going to do their best, and I do not blame them. But the reality of the situation is the brutality of the NFL that we all grew up with ain't going to fly. It's not. And so they have to try to find some way to reduce the brutality in a game that is compelling largely because it is, in fact, brutal. Like, it's not as though they're taking something out of the NFL that people really want it gone. Like, nobody wants catastrophic injuries or anything like that. But you like this brutal. The intrigue of this is, in fact, the brutality of it. So how do you continue to produce a product that is compelling to people while taking away a significant part of that which makes it compelling? Like, I think you'd all have to be honest about this. I don't feel like y'all love the NFL like y'all did 5 years ago. I don't feel like the excitement or the enthusiasm around the discussion of the NFL is the same as it was. Like, now we don't have to go back like 10 or 15 years or anything like that. Just like 5. I don't feel like the way that we feel about these games is the same. And coming in here and putting bad rules in, no, man, that's not the way to go. Now, Troy Vincent also said something here. He said the coaches, general managers, and the owners and the players, that all of them do not want players ejected from games unless there's no option. But the problem is you're going to wind up suspending them in many of these cases. Like, if you try to come up with a penalty to make this stop, I don't know if there's any way that you can go about doing it that isn't going too far. I really don't have an answer for that. I don't. Because I look at these things like Gronk, I thought probably should have gotten more than a one-game suspension. After seeing that Juju Smith-Schuster got the one-game suspension for that, I don't see how you could have it where you say that what Gronk did was the same as that. There's no way that you'll ever be able to convince me of that one. They went too soft on Gronk with the suspension. But again, Troy Vincent said they didn't really have a set of rules, and he thought that what they did was firm and it was fair, but they did not want to be excessive. And I'm trying to figure out when it is that the NFL started laying down penalties and saying they were worried about whether or not they were going to be excessive. They just make this stuff up. Like, it's all reactionary policy. And so what I feel like they're ultimately going to need in this situation, and it's interesting because the commissioner apparently has just had his contract extension pushed through. You need somebody with some level of vision and foresight to chart the path of where this stuff is going to go and try to figure out a strategy to get to where you want to go. What you can't have is a really ugly-looking game on Monday night, national television. We have talked many times about how national television changed the game in all kinds of ways. But you can't have a situation where there's a nasty game on national television, and that's the thing that flips up all the policy. It can't be that. They got to start from some initial place with some real live thought process and then go from there to get to what they think is going to be their ultimate goal. But what they keep doing is what they've always done. It's the same thing the NCAA does, which is reactionary policy making. And the last thing you want anybody to say about the way that you conduct your business and the way that you handle your policies is like, oh, yeah, they do it just like the NCAA. Like, that's not the model. That's not the people to whom you wish to be immediately compared. That's not it. But that's where they are now. That's what this has come to. Why? Because they're like, yo, they want us to make this safer, but this stuff ain't safe. Ooh, anybody got any ideas? And they look around and like, I can go think about it and come back. Like, maybe we can talk about it a little bit later, but, right now I kind of I kind of like watching dudes get jacked up. Like, you realize that there would be a generation of kids like 25 years from now. Like, hey, you go back and you look at like those old clips like the Ed Sullivan Show, and it'll be Sammy Davis Jr. on there, and he's just smoking a cigarette like it's no big deal. Or Dick Cavett Show, people just sitting there at the desk smoking cigarettes like it's nothing. And if you are of a certain age now, that's like the most mind-blowing idea for you because you grew up in a time where people can't even smoke cigarettes in bars. Kids going to find out that we used to have like jacked up in the videos of the biggest hits and everything else, and they're going to have no clue that life was ever like that. And we're going to be like, yeah, those were the good old days before we were aware of traumatic brain injuries.
Look, we got a Madden 30 for 30 podcast airing right now. And what did Madden introduce? The hit stick.
That's right. The hit stick.
We made a whole feature and a functionality of this game, the hit stick, so you can deliver an even bigger hit than just tackling.
And don't forget, well before the hit stick, the ambulance that would roll out like once a game. Like, the ambulance is not for special occasions. The ambulance is like somebody going to get wheeled out of here every game because that's what y'all like. All right, 888-729-3776. That's our telephone number. Give us a call. Coming up next. Oh, we've reached the point where LaVar Ball is taking it to the Lakers. We'll find out who he didn't say nothing about. You're listening to ESPN Radio, the ESPN app, Sirius XM Channel 80.
The Right Time with Bomani Jones.
My name is Bomani Jones. Thanks for listening on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app. We are presented by Progressive Insurance. Pablo Torre of ESPN will join us next segment. Pablo Torre will join us at 4:30 Eastern. 888-729-3776. That is our telephone number. And hey, it's time Straight Talk, brought to you by Straight Talk Wireless. Best phones, best networks, no contracts. We talk about the NFL, trying to figure out how to get guys to stop hitting each other so hard. Let's hit the phones. Talk to Todd in Texas. Todd, thanks for calling the right time.
Hey, Bomani, thanks for taking the call again, man. Love your show.
Thank you, man.
Hey, check this out. That don't make any sense to take all these contact out of NFL. I mean, I think it's been less than, it's probably been a little more than 20 years or maybe a little less that they done got on this plight of trying to make the NFL safer. It's a contact collision sport. You can't take the collision and the contact out of football, or else we'll be just playing flag football. I mean, taking the collision and contact out of the NFL is like putting a screen door on a submarine. Just useless. You know what I'm saying? I mean, the problem is the NFL got too many rules and not enough standards. And I think if they had some standards, because you don't own rules. You go ahead, you hit the dude, you get your fine, and now you're good to go. You know what I'm saying? You go on back on the field, do it again. Get your fine, do it again. But if you set some standards there's no left and right with standards. Standards is across the board. There's no wiggle room when you got a standard. Set some standards. That's the problem. It's just too many rules that's being broken, and that's why you can't take a collision. You can't take the collision out of a collision sport.
Well, Todd, I appreciate the call, and I do think that you're correct that they cannot take collision out of it. I do think that there are measures that they can take. The problem is I don't think y'all are going to like them, right? So, for example, the kickoff is a really exciting play for us to watch, but the kickoff has become an antiquity. They can get rid of the kickoff. They can't. There's a real question as to whether or not the danger that comes from the kickoff is enough to justify getting rid of it. And it might be, because, man, them cats be on the kickoffs getting wild. Shannon, you remember they had to get rid of the wedge? You remember the wedge?
You had the wedge, and then when you got rid of the wedge, then theoretically you got rid of the wedge buster.
And by the way, I am very afraid to find out what former wedge busters are out here doing in the world. Because if you made a decision in your life, like, you know what I'm about to do to make a living? I'm just going to run into 3 people. I am petrified to consider what that person is out here doing on the street. There's some dude right now probably getting off the train at Times Square, and he's watching some people's walking down the street, they holding hands, you know what I'm saying? And he's looking at him like, wedge. And he just going to lay them bad boys out. In fact, hey, think about it. Think about this. Think about the dude that you knew in high school who was the wedge buster. And I feel like the wedge buster in high school was very often, honestly, the person who was willing to be the wedge buster. Was there any particular talent that you needed to be the wedge buster other than not being very smart?
Yeah, feel free to call. If you ever played wedge buster at any level, high school, college, pros, and you were a wedge buster, please give us a call, because I would love to know what went into that.
And, Shannon, there's a whole generation now that won't know anything about the wedge buster, because they're going to be looking at us like, yo, y'all were dumb. And we're going to be like, yeah, you're right. Is there any way to look at wedge busting as anything other than being stupid?
All right, so think about it. You can either be 4th string tight end, maybe the 3rd string fullback, or you could be the starting wedge buster.
Oh, no. I'd rather be let me be that fullback that wears the baseball cap. I'll be right over here with the charts, helping the other fullback go through the plays while that fullback come over and be like, damn, will somebody please pick up the phone? Why y'all just letting the phone? Y'all ain't got no answering machine? Why has the phone been ringing for the last 4 minutes? Help your boy out. 888-729-3776. That is our telephone number. And let's talk Steve in Tennessee. Steven, thanks for calling the right time.
Hey, Bomani, thanks for having me on the show again, man.
Yes, sir.
So the biggest thing that I notice in this conversation about trying to get people not to hit each other as hard is looking at the turnover factor. So in football, there's really two good ways to force a turnover, right? Either stripping the ball or hitting somebody hard enough to knock it out of their hands. No. You don't always have the option to strip the ball. If you've got an angle on somebody and all you have to hit is his back, you're going to hit him as hard as you can and knock that ball out so that your team can win the football game. So now you're telling me that we're going to take away an aspect that helps your team win football games because guys are getting hit too hard.
Now, well,
I don't see how that's going to work.
Well, Steven, I tell you this, and I appreciate the call. This goes in line with something I was telling y'all yesterday and I've been saying before. They ain't really firing that many people for getting suspended. They are firing people for giving up touchdowns. Like, your touchdown get caught right in your face. Yeah, that'll get you fired. Catching one of those suspensions for blasting somebody, keep it real. If the NFL wasn't so concerned with all their little rules about uniforms and stuff, they might put a little sticker on your helmet. Like, and they're not going to be able to fix that. They're not going to be able to correct that. Like the play there for a Aloka on that play, if that were at, say, the 20-yard line, maybe he goes about it a little bit differently. Standing in the end zone, hey, man, sometimes you got to pay a little money to get what you need done. That's just how it goes. I bet some of them cats had to go look at that like, you know how teachers have to put money out their own pocket to go buy some poster board, you know, to make Valentines for the kids. Is there really a dissimilarity between that and what some of these cats are going to do hitting these fools with that buyout?
Think about it. If you're a defensive player, your number one objective is what? Stopping the other team from getting in the end zone, right?
Yes.
And you're going to do any and everything you have to do at any cost to stop that man from getting in the end zone.
Yeah. Now, one reason, by the way, I was surprised that Aloka had his suspension overturned in the way it did. Did it look to you like he dialed up with that forearm? Because I do feel like that's a level that you don't have to go to, is dialing up a bit with that forearm. Like you're going to have to go with the shoulder at this point. This is the way that you're going to have to get it done. But we got to stop acting as though you can absolutely eradicate hits to the head. And I would also like to say one more time, as I've said before, offensive linemen have to be looking at this like y'all don't care about nothing that happens to us because we out here getting our bells rung every day. But it just doesn't have the impact that you see, so y'all don't know what to do. Straight Talk Wireless, nationwide coverage on America's largest and most dependable 4G LTE networks. All right, coming up next, Pablo Torre, ESPN Radio, the ESPN app, Sirius XM Channel 80.
The Right Time with Bomani Jones.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to The Right Time. My name is Bomani Jones. Thanks for listening on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app. All guests join us on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line, just like our next guest. Check him out all over ESPN and also on a television show with me in 2018. His name is Pablo Torre. All right, Pablo, your man Raj, you finally got that extension. What we got here? $200 million over the life of the contract. Guess that's 5 years. So 5 years, $200 million. If he gets all the bonuses, what'd you think about that?
Big day for #Goodell Hive. I mean, I've just been watching social media. These celebratory cheers are deafening. No, man, look, this is one of those things that I view first and foremost through the lens of the deep dish state. Like, what did they get out of this? What did the Pizza Illuminati group, the Jerry Jones faction, the Papa John's faction, what did they get out of this negotiation? And the big thing, which you hinted at just then, is that 90% of this money, 90% of that $200 million is tied up in these escalator clauses, these bonuses. Like, he needs to hit these financial targets to make that money. And I think, I don't know what those, in fact, bonuses are yet. I don't think that's been reported. But it seems like he may well hit them. But it does seem like for a guy who was demanding a lot last check that we sort of looked into this, it does seem like there is a humbling when there's at least a legal possibility that you could be making $4 million annually instead of that $40 million, which you just mentioned.
Well, one thing that's interesting is that a lot of the incentives are makeable, right? Like this is something that had been reported a while ago that they wanted to put these in incentives, but a lot of the incentives would already be there, which is almost offensive. Like you're Roger Goodell, you just got to bite your lip and sign it, right? Because you're like, I'm trying to play me, even though I'm going to really get the money.
Yes. And I do think it's worth zooming out and reminding ourselves there aren't many broadly popular concepts left in American life. There aren't many truly bipartisan issues. One of them is the idea that Roger Goodell just isn't very good at this. So on the one hand, I get why you keep him. And I think there's a conversation around what his utility is to this ownership group and to this business. But it's funny, man. Like, yeah, we're going to get more Roger Goodell, even if in comparison to Adam Silver, who seems to have the pulse in some very specifically strategic corporate way on the social issues, quote unquote, plaguing sports. That's Adam Silver's kind of gift. You look at Rob Manfred in Major League Baseball, the guy seems to have engineered more home runs for his sport, which is a real good legacy to have as a business. You compare those guys to Roger Goodell, and it just still isn't very close.
Talking to Pablo Torre of ESPN the magazine here on The Right Time. And I think one thing also that's interesting, remember those lofty goals of revenue that we heard about, all the billions of dollars they wanted the NFL to be making by 2020. 2020 is almost here. How are they going to make that money, right?
Right. I mean, remember, we used to be talking about expansion, right? I mean, Europe is still kind of this ongoing experiment, but the NFL thought it was going to be growing and growing. And one of the lessons we're learning from the media today and the media economy today, how people consume things, is that it's not about being the number one show in America anymore in the way that it used to be. You know, the most popular TV show in 1999 was like Who Wants to Be a Millionaire or whatever it was. And that was 30-something million people watching that. Now, no one has that kind of share of the pie in the same way. The NFL comes the closest to being that, I think, as a franchise, as a dependable product that will exist year over year. But it's really about preserving turf. It's about preserving your share of the pie as much as you can. And the bet with Roger Goodell is, maybe we're not going to hit these lofty goals that you just said, but maybe we'll be able to keep our turf somewhat close to what it is today, and that's a win in the modern era.
But is keeping turf going to be enough? Because I do agree with you on that by and large, but the nature of a corporate setup is it doesn't matter how much money you're making. It matters how much money you're making relative to what you're promising people you're ultimately going to be able to do. Like, they're always going to be able to make money. I know another company that winds up in a similar situation, right? But they got to find some way to produce some level of growth. And holding turf isn't going to be enough. So I look at that for Roger Goodell like, so how exactly are you going to pull this off?
Yeah, no, this to me is defensive in nature. And you're totally right about how stock prices work. You need to have that upward trend. You don't even need to really have a business that can bring that upward trend into reality in the present tense. You just got to be showing that you're growing, that you're moving on in that direction, which is the whole story, of course, about Silicon Valley and the potential bubble we find ourselves in today. But I digress. With Roger Goodell in the NFL, this is a defensive maneuver, and it's defensive specifically, too, in the sense that Roger Goodell is the shield. We talk about Roger Goodell protecting the shield. Roger Goodell talks about protecting the shield all the time. But what we keep on learning is that in most cases, the NFL is trying to defend itself. And if you're a bunch of billionaires with questionable political ideologies in 2017, questionable business aptitude in 2017, at the very least, you have this guy, Roger Goodell, who will take all of those arrows like a human shield and prevent you, said ownership, from really being inspected in the way that you might any other company.
All right, on to Pablo Torre of ESPN the magazine here on The Right Time. How do you think Jerry Jones feels about this, though?
I feel like that phrase in that article, I think it was the Times story that I just read, it said nearly unanimous. I feel like Jerry Jones is the difference between nearly unanimous and unanimous. And I wonder, going forward, if Roger Goodell is just going to be now getting like emails, texts. I don't know how these men communicate from Jerry Jones, where Jerry is just basically taunting him about these bonuses. Like, I think Jerry Jones is going to be constantly reminding Roger Goodell about the possibility that he could be making $4 million instead of $40 million. And, he better get on top of this next negotiation for these live rights. Otherwise, he may not be making the money he thought he was going to make.
Now, I do think that Jerry is totally looking at this like I won. right? Because Jerry did, at the very least, get something in there that's going to make Roger grind. They are treating Roger like a player.
Yes. I mean, I don't know which player. I guess there's some, it's not Darrelle Revis because Revis is only 1-year contract. I'm looking for the right metaphor for a guy who embraces these performance escalator bonuses in a long-term kind of sense. But this is a labor. Yes, Kirk. I mean, if you're Jerry Jones and you woke up today and said, I'm going to make Roger Goodell into Kirk Cousins, that is a victory.
All right, talking to Pablo Torre of ESPN The Magazine here on The Right Time. Switching gears just a little bit, Troy Vincent says they might want to put in the college targeting rule in the NFL, a rule that I think is a silly rule to begin with. What are they doing?
I mean, this, first off, on a real level, like, safety favors offense. By definition in sports, in football specifically, safety favors offense. It's biased towards protecting those offensive players. So does this really make sense? Not really, but I see what they're trying to do. What I would like out of the Troy Vincent era, and also just this era in which we're getting like Derek Brooks overseeing these arbitration discussions for suspensions, just go all the way with it, man. Just go all the way with it. If you're not going to be really engaging with player health and player safety, because you can't, because that is truly existentially threatening to your business, go the other direction and go like People's Court with it. Televise this stuff. I want Troy Vincent as Judge Joe Brown. I want Derek Brooks as Judge Judy. Like, I want these things to be televised. Let them argue about this, because the upshot of it, the final decisions we're getting are about as sensical, if not less sensical, than the stuff we'd see on the People's Court.
Got to say, Judge Joe Brown appreciates that shout-out. Judge Mathis, however, is wondering how you forgot about him.
You know what? Judge Mathis deserves a shout-out. I'm sorry to Judge Mathis. Shout out to him. I'm sure Judge Mathis, by the way, speaking of people who are making potentially $40 million, if Judge Judy is pulling in at last check somewhere around that money, I hope Judge Mathis is getting paid himself.
Yeah, we ain't get this wage gap in this country by accident. That is Pablo Torre. Check him out on Around the Horn. Check him out at ESPN The Magazine, and also 2018 television show with me. My man, thanks so much. I appreciate it.
2018.
All right, man, you take it easy. Get us the gold status at Shell. Join the Fuel Rewards program at fuelrewards.com/gold.
The Right Time with Bomani Jones.
My name is Bomani Jones. Thanks for listening on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app. All guests join us on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. Thanks to Pablo Torre of ESPN for joining us last segment. Michael Felder, Bleacher Report, will join us next segment. Michael Felder will join us at 5:15 Eastern. And remember, if you miss anything live, check out the Right Time podcast, available on the ESPN app. 888-729-3776. That is our telephone number. We were wondering what was up with old college wedge busters. Want to make sure your head wasn't hurting. What do you know? We got a wedge buster on the line. Let's hit the phone. Talk to James in Washington. James, thanks for calling the Right Time.
Bomani, what's going on, man? Thanks for taking my call. I appreciate it.
No problem.
So that's also the reason why I quit football. So we had a dude on my team, man. He was a wedge buster. Crazy dude from Iowa. He would come off the field all jacked up. Remember when you used to get scars on your helmet, and that was the thing to do? That showed that you had battle scars? Oh, man, I want some of them. Man, I went down the middle of that field. I had paint come off my helmet, the other dude's helmet, all in my face and everything. I couldn't see nothing. I seen stars. I went to coach office on Monday morning and said, hey, man, I got these new track spikes I'm about to try on. Here go all your football equipment. Y'all have a good day.
That's all it took was wedge busting?
That was all it took was one time in the middle of that wedge with all them linemen and them big old linebackers. I'm good, man. I'm good.
I got these new track spikes. Hey, man, I appreciate the call, Jay. There's nothing like coming in there with an alternative. All these stories about when y'all quit football are all made better when y'all showed up in the coach's office to quit and the coach didn't understand what you were there for. Those are the best ones. But the coach is just like, what do you mean? I'm out. Anyway, speaking of quitting, Marcus Peters quit all the Chiefs the other day. I think even Dominique would have to agree that when you throw yourself out of a game, even though you haven't been thrown out of a game, that will qualify as quitting. And that's what Marcus Peters did in that game against the Jets where the flag was on the field. He threw the flag into the crowd, and then with 2 minutes and 15 seconds left in the game, he took it to the tunnel because he was good. And so Marcus Peters has been suspended 1 game for the Chiefs. And he must really be wilding over there because the Chiefs need this win bad. He is their best corner. Their defense is not good. And they're like, nah, go ahead and hit the oak for a week. We'll get this done without you, which means, by the way, that Darrelle Revis will be out there trying to Shannon, we going to see if he out here Brett Favre? We going to see if he Brett Favre?
When did it stop being an island? Because it's far from it at this point.
Yeah. No. It's a resort. There's a completely different situation that he's in right now, and, well, I guess we're going to see it. But anyway, I'm a little disappointed because the Chiefs are going to play the Raiders this weekend, and as we learned, Marcus Peters and Marshawn Lynch got a relationship that's a lot bigger than football. What we've also seen from Marcus Peters this year is Marcus Peters is done with tackling. We had somebody tell a story on this show about how Marcus Peters in high school made them quit playing football, and that Marcus Peters doesn't play anymore. This Marcus Peters is making all the business decisions. And to be clear, I don't judge him for making those business decisions because I would be doing the exact same thing. If I see myself in any NFL player in the history of the NFL, I see myself in Ted Ginn. So please understand, I'm not out here calling anybody soft or anything else. I'm just saying that we are now deprived with this suspension of another Marcus Peters, Marshawn Lynch football game because I feel like we will wind up with a situation where Marshawn Lynch was coming up to the goal line and Marcus Peters had a chance to tackle him, and what's his name? Marcus Peters was going to whiff on the tackle because whiffing on tackles has been what he's doing this year, and they were going to ask him after the game what happened. He was going to be like, man, y'all don't know nothing about no town business. It's town business, man. We don't explain town business to people who ain't from the town. And Shannon, don't forget, we got lots of mechs in the town. You know what Marshawn Lynch said? We got lots of mechs.
What we are missing out on the opportunity of having someone on each team use the term hella as much as possible.
Yeah, well, yeah, there's that. But, like, I really wanted to see them and how they decide to deal with each other because the problem is, I was like, Marcus Peters will wind up whiffing on a tackle against Marshawn Lynch. And they're like, yeah, because that's because they fam. I'm like, nah, that ain't really got nothing to do with them being fam. I get the feeling with Marshawn Lynch, the way he shows love to family is by hitting him in the chest even harder than he would a stranger. It's how you get tough, cuz. Actually, I don't know if cuz is in his vernacular, but anyway. Yeah, so we're going to miss out on that. We really are going to miss out on that. Again, I want the footage of that Marshawn Lynch appeal here and the Marcus Peters showed up to because I guarantee you the phrase town business was used 15 times. And 7 of them were for the person on the other side of the desk, as in Marcus Peters being like, yo, it's town business, and the dude from the NFL being like, town business? Yeah, man, town business. Wait, what's town business? You know, it's town business. So, town business, like a city council. We the city council. We decide what town business is. Is it business or business? Town business. 888-729-3776. That's our telephone number. Ooh, boy, somebody got a story about quitting football. Let's talk to Brandon in D.C. Brandon, thanks for calling the right time.
Hey, Bomani, how you doing?
Doing all right, man.
All right, so about 15 years ago, summer practice, pretty much hit a toss play to the outside. Get to the outside, make the corner, good, great. Turn around, and I see none other than Sean Merriman barreling down at me. Next thing I know, I'm 5 to 7 yards on the outside of the football field, laying on the track. Get up a couple minutes later, kind of look around, dazed, confused, had a little bit of blood coming out. Next day, turned my pads in, was like, yo, I'm about to try out for this fall baseball team and just call it a day.
Hold on, what level of football was this?
This was high school.
Okay, I was just checking because we often have college players who call up but don't want us to know who they are because they don't want to admit that they quit in college. Brandon, I appreciate the call. Shannon, I ain't want no parts to know high school lights out. Sean Merriman.
For who? For what?
Well, here's the only thing, though. I imagine there might have been a difference between high school Sean Merriman and, like, NFL Sean Merriman, as I imagine the NFL Sean Merriman had access to some things that made him a bit more fearsome than the high school Sean Merriman would have, unless he was, hanging out in the parking lot at the gym. You know what I mean? Come on, man. He failed the test. I mean, it's not like I'm telling you something that you were not aware of. He had that dirty pee-pee that one time. Hey, man, it happens. 888-729-3776. That's our telephone number. Coming up next, Mark Emmert, head of the NCAA. I'm about to rip his head off. Figuratively speaking, it would be illegal otherwise.
Thanks for listening to the Right Time Podcast. Please come back tomorrow for more. And don't forget to listen to The Right Time with Bomani Jones from 4 p.m. to 7 Eastern on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app.
Guys, Guys, wouldn't your wife or girlfriend love it if you treated her to the very best this Christmas? Now you can, with the world's softest pajamas by Pajamagram. Created by a team of pajama experts, the world's softest PJs are lighter than a cloud, softer than a bunny, like cashmere, only better. She'll love how heavenly they feel. Includes free gift packaging and Christmas delivery is guaranteed. So visit pajamagram.com or call 1-800-GIVE-PJs.
Welcome to the Right Time Podcast. The Right Time with Bomani Jones.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to The Right Time. My name is Bomani Jones. Thanks for listening on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app. We are presented by Progressive Insurance. You can send us a tweet at the 1-800-Flowers.com Twitter feed. That is at Bomani_Jones. We are taking your phone calls today on the day that you quit football or the day that football quit you, whichever one of those works, because, you know, it's Wednesday. 888-729-3776. That is our telephone number. So Mark Emmert today was at the Learfield Intercollegiate Athletics Forum. And he was asked about LaVar Ball and what happened with LaVar and LiAngelo pulling him out of school and all this stuff. And here is what Mark Emmert had to say. Quote, is this a part of someone being part of your university as a student athlete, or is it about using college athletics to prepare yourself to be a pro? If it's the latter, you shouldn't be there in the first place. And I'm just trying to figure out how it is a man who says things that are so stupid, A, has been a university president, and B, manages to make so many $1 million a year. Because that is one of the dumbest things I have ever heard in my life. So dumb that I almost thought about rolling out an old sound clip that I like to use, but we can't use it no more because that dude turned out to be a bit of a predator, allegedly. Anyway, I want to go a couple different directions on this idea that if these football players or basketball players, whoever they happen to be, are only preparing themselves to be pros, then they should not be at a university. Every university in this country, just about, there are some exceptions, but just about every university in this country has had a time period where they have offered this crazy slate of majors. Now, I guess it was about 10 years ago or so we saw universities cut down on the number of majors that they were offering. But you know what all those majors were that they were offering? It was all job prep stuff, right? It was all stuff so that when people's parents came in and they say, my baby wants to be insert thing here when he or she grows up, even though that person was 17 years old and not truly in a position to know what the hell they wanted to do with their lives, those universities wanted to be able to say, well, if that's the kind of job that you're trying to get, here's what we have for you. All these universities got placement offices so that after you're done with whatever with your degree, that they'll be out here saying that they can get you jobs. They got that in their paperwork and everything else because universities have become places that people go to get jobs. Now, do I agree with the idea that higher education is there to serve as job prep? Absolutely not. If you want to go to a trade school, go to a trade school. That's how I feel about it. Grad school is a time for you to go and do that. This is what I want to do for a living. I think the purpose of undergraduate education is completely different. I think that you're dealing with young people, and young people by and large don't know what it is they want to do with their lives, and I think that there's a danger in 18 and 19-year-olds making these big damning decisions about what to do with the rest of their lives at that point in life. Like for me, it's like I get it if this is what you ultimately want to do, but if you walk into college and say, I want to major in accounting, I'm like, oh my God, have you given up on life already? Like, ain't nobody growing up being like, yo, that's what I want to do my whole life. Like, I have problems with the idea of people coming and using college as a place just to get ready for a job. I think the value of college is in the people that you meet, and it's also in the opportunity that you have to learn about so many things, an opportunity that you really don't have for the rest of your life because you're too busy being grown. Right? It's about the panels. It's about the discussions that you can wind up attending, right? It's all these different things. That's what I think that college is for and I think is best for. I bristle, much like Mark Emmert did there, at the idea that all people do when they come to college is try to get ready to get a job. I also bristle at that as somebody who's had to try to teach your kids in these classes, and those lazy jokers only want to do stuff they feel like is going to connect to their job. You're a little sorry, is it going to be on the test, little busters that you send up, but I got to be the one to teach them what life is, right? Like, I'm not here for that. But I ain't trying to hear this from Mark Emmert. I'm absolutely not trying to hear this from Mark Emmert because you know what y'all are doing. You know how these schools get down. You know what it is. And if, by the way, if you have a problem with the idea that athletes are coming just to be professionals, I need to know what your approach was when you were a university president. Now, we've seen all the various levels of hypocrisy from Mark Emmert. Mark Emmert used to be the president at LSU. He used to be the president at Washington. And when LSU hired Nick Saban, he was the president, and he went on this whole thing about how he understands the importance of football and everything else. And then he's He's the same guy that when he got to be laid out the punishment on Penn State about how you couldn't have a football-first culture, and then the NCAA wound up rolling back all those penalties against Penn State, and the Penn State football culture looks about like it always was in terms of its significance. Right, this is what this dude does the whole way on it. But the bottom line is the NCAA asked these kids to come to school to use them in order to make money. And then Mark Emmert has the nerve to be upset with them at the idea that those players are using the schools right back. I don't think there's been a single coach who got a job going from a lower-rated school to a higher-rated school, and they ask him, so why did you hire that guy? Dude, you should have seen those graduation rates, man. Oh, no, I'm serious, man. And all kinds of majors and everything. Anybody never got no new job like that. Anybody never moved up in this by doing it like that. That's not how this works. Everybody's in this bad boy trying to get theirs for one reason or another. And the schools are in this trying to get this bread. Even when they're not trying to get the bread directly, they're trying to use the visibility of football to get their brand name on television and have all kinds of people see it who might not. That's why you wind up seeing so many of these colleges who take a loss on football simply because they want to be seen. They want the visibility that comes from it. And so you're a cat like Mark Emmert, you use these guys. You want to use these guys. That's the whole purpose of having this. How dare you act offended that somebody, maybe, just maybe, might be using you right back. You say that maybe they should not be in college in the first place. How about this? How about you go around and you somehow get some kind of device that can look into the hearts and souls of all your athletes? You go ahead and do that. And you get that device and you plug it into people's temples or wherever it is that allows you to get back the information. And then once you do that, you find every single one of them that is there playing ball because they think it'll help them go pro. And once you find out who all of them are, you go ahead and you remove them from the group. And after you remove them from the group, you go ahead and you play a full football season. You go ahead and you play a full basketball season. And after you do that, go talk to all those other students, all those other donors. You ask them if their university just got better. Ask them if their university situation improved. Because I bet you all of them would say no. Every single one. Because y'all want good football players. Y'all want good athletes. And they're not there because you are doing them a favor. Now, I fully understand that the NCAA has a need to maintain some sort of charade because you guys enjoy the idea of, hey, they're just out here fighting for the alma mater just like me and everything else. Y'all love that. It allows you to have a kinship with these players with whom you probably don't relate to in any other way. But you can only relate to them as they are providing something that gives you some level of benefit. That's what this is. You can't be a hater, though. Everybody's trying to get theirs. Everybody is trying to get theirs. And I say this, if you are saying that those guys shouldn't be in college because they're just trying to prepare themselves to be pros, go ahead and make them pros now. Then they won't have to think about making themselves pros. Go ahead and pay them some bread. Only thing you do with them that is non-professional is not pay them. That is the only thing. But this is just the nature of all of this overall. So if Mark Emmert wanted to make like some broad revolutionary statement about how we have turned undergraduate education in this country into trade school, dude, I'd be right there with him. I'd absolutely be there. And just so you understand, I'm kind of real about this. Very often I have people who ask me if I have any advice for a college student who wants to get into journalism. And I give them all the same advice. Don't major in journalism. Or if you're going to, if you really want to do it that way, maybe minor in journalism, but don't major in journalism. And the reason I always tell them that is something my mother told me, and my mother's a college professor. But she's like, it's more important that you know something than, quote unquote, knowing how to write it. You can figure out how to write it, but you got to actually know something. Like, if you know something, you can go out here and get any job in the world. Like, this idea that you're going to go to college and get, locked into doing one particular thing, I think is wildly problematic and gets you in trouble. Get you something that gives you a thought process that makes you more versatile, that then sets you up as this game changes, you can do more things. And if you don't believe that versatility for the game change matters, ask all these cats who work in my business who learned at college how to write at a newspaper, and then suddenly newspapers didn't have jobs that they wanted anymore or jobs that they could get anymore. No. So if Emmert wanted to say that, dude, I'd be right there with him. But somehow, in his mind, the only guys that he's going to bang on for coming to school just to become professionals are the athletes, even though your campuses have tens of thousands of students who are there doing the exact same damn thing. All right, 888-729-3776. That's our telephone number. Oh, man, we got somebody talking about quitting playing football. Let's hit Blake in Louisiana. Blake, thanks for calling the right time.
Hey, Bo, what's going on, man?
Doing all right, man?
I don't know if you remember me. I called in last week about Thanksgiving from Louisiana.
Oh, yes.
About that Thanksgiving story.
Oh, yes.
Good to talk to you again. Hey, I got a quick story about Marcus Spears, actually. I played against him, kind of a quick two-part story, but I played against him in football. I was a sophomore. He was a senior. He went to Southern Lab. I don't know if you recall that school down here in Baton Rouge.
Oh, but, I know it.
Yeah. Good school. He was the man down there. So I played tight end and had to basically go up against him about 3 or 4 times, and he ran me over so bad each time. And then about 2 minutes before the play, the game ended, I caught a pass, very short pass, about 5 minutes. For some reason, he stepped back and just cracked me so bad that I couldn't breathe for like 3 or 4 days. And I think it was bad. It was the worst I'd ever gotten hit. And after that game, my dad was like, "You may want to think about just sticking to basketball." I actually ended up playing college basketball, and that was my last game. But so, anyways, fast forward about a month or so, we played him in basketball, and again, he was a senior, I was a sophomore, so I was thinking this is my chance to get him back a little bit because he was way better at football, but he was a heck of a basketball player. And so I did all right against him, but in the third quarter, he caught a pass coming down the middle of the lane. And so I had an option, Bo. I could either try to block it, I could take a charge, or I could get out of the way. And I'm sure you probably understand what I did. I got the heck out of the way because I was not about to get dunked on, and he dunked it so hard that it shook the whole gym. I didn't even know he could dunk, and he dunked. I'd never seen a big guy like that dunk so hard. And but that was my story about football and Marcus Spears. He's a great dude, first of all, but I never played football after that again.
Hold on. What high school did you go to? Because I'm going to have to ask him about this.
I went to Parkview.
Oh, yeah, I'll let you know what he says, Blake, man. I appreciate the call. All right, coming up next. So which college program hired the right head coach? We'll talk to Michael Felder of Bleacher Report about that on ESPN Radio, the ESPN app, Sirius XM Channel 80.
The Right Time with Bomani Jones.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to The Right Time. My name is Bomani Jones. Thanks for listening on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app. We are presented by Progressive Insurance. Damien Woody will join us next segment. Damien Woody will join us at 5:30 Eastern. We played that song right there, not because I'm into that stuff, but because our next guest is. He covers college football at Bleacher Report. He's also a great student in the history of West McClintock Middle School in Charlotte, North Carolina. His name is Michael Felder. Mike, are you surprised that Chad Morris wound up being the hire at Arkansas? And I ask that because I'm trying to figure out how Tennessee let Arkansas hire a better coach than they'll probably hire.
I'm kind of surprised, but didn't they already interview Chad Morris, which to me kind of speaks to him recognizing the environment that he would have stepped into, recognizing where he fit on the scale of coaches they were interested in, because from everything that I've read and hearing people talk about, hearing people say they were going to try and get Gundy, and then he was a guy that was kind of a throw-in. Maybe let's talk to him too, see if we can get him after they missed on Gundy. So I think for him, he's thinking, you know what, I'll be closer to Texas. This is a school that I know does want me. They kind of handle things more in-house, handle things more quietly. So this is going to be a good spot for me for this next job until I ultimately, I think in his mind, get to the next job.
I was wondering if you thought maybe he should have waited for that, because the problem with Arkansas is, I mean, you can win 8 games at Arkansas and do a great job, but I'm not sure anybody's going to treat you like you did a great job winning 8 games at Arkansas. Yeah,
no, that's a very real problem. There are a handful of places like that that have that same sort of vibe where 8's not enough or 9's not enough, and what else can you do for me? And I think maybe in his mind, Tennessee is even more of that place than Arkansas, because Tennessee, I think a lot of people still view it as resources enough to go out and get these W's and get those W's. But looking at Arkansas, 8 or 9 there a couple of years in a row, and he becomes a commodity, again a commodity in the coaching industry. And I certainly think for him also that proximity to a place where he does feel comfortable in with respect to Texas is a huge part of why Arkansas makes more sense. And I think he's looking at that landscape of the SEC West, and he sees a team, obviously, in LSU that's been up or down. He sees A&M, and he recognizes they've got a new coach, so they're going to go through a transition period. He's looking at Auburn and Alabama and looking at this and thinking, hey, you know what? I can make my stuff work here. Let me see what I can do.
I would like to know, we're talking to Michael Felder, Bleacher Report here on the right time, that Arkansas is close to Texas, except it is a world away from Texas. It's very hard to explain, but that's the way it goes. Speaking of places where it's not that easy to win 8 or 9 games, but they won't be happy with it, all money ain't good money. Is Jimbo Fisher going to look back and look at it that way?
I think as long as he's able to kind of flex his muscle, he's going to be fine. And at least stepping into that press conference, it had to feel like, hey, they're going to let me do what I want to do and no one's going to talk back to me. That was sort of the feel that we got, that I got at least coming out of that press conference, where he kind of took those, very poorly, I wouldn't even say veiled, took those shots at Florida State where you got to have a coaching staff that's on the same page, with the players on the same page, and an administration that's on the same page. And I read that after listening to what's happened at Florida State and how he sort of eroded that relationship. I read that as they didn't let me do what I wanted and give me everything that I asked for without asking me questions. And so I think if he gets that at A&M, I think he's going to end up being happy. Now the question is wins and national championship wins. I think he obviously has taken a step back because he has to rebuild this program from what he's already done at Florida State. But I think Bud Elliott said something really good. Maybe Jimbo Fisher's a guy that's just an agent of change. Maybe he's a guy that can come in, whip you into shape, get things going the right way. And then after that is when he starts to have the problems, when he starts to wear on people. Maybe that's what's up with him as a head football coach. We don't have a ton of sample size for him because he's only been that head coach for us to watch at Florida State.
We're talking to Michael Felder, Bleacher Report, here on the right time. I just don't know if he understands exactly what he stepped into. I've never seen a program put expectations down at an introductory press conference in the way that program did, given they haven't won a national championship since 1939.
Yeah, I think that they have this lust to be good, and there's other programs that have it, but I think you hit the nail on the head with the idea that it's been so long since they've been at that level, and really we've seen some really good things out of them. I think that the Sir Parker years stand out for me. Obviously, the Manziel years stand out more recently, and I think for them, we could talk championships, and I think it almost feels like they feel obligated to have that championship talk, where ultimately at the end of the day, if you can get to double-digit wins, I think you're doing a good job there.
I think you're doing an amazing job if you get there with double digits. Don't get me started. We're talking to Michael Felder, a Bleacher Report here on the right time. Now, we're talking about Florida State. What do you think about the Taggart hire?
I love it. I think he is phenomenal. I think that this is a guy that just watching him work from Western Kentucky as an assistant to obviously to Stanford, back to Western Kentucky, to South Florida. And South Florida is a place where I know he worked with Sean King. He brought Sean King on to help him work with quarterbacks there. He's willing to hire people. He's willing to work with people. He wants to develop. He can play anything. Everybody always asks when you hire a coach, what's his system? What's his system? This is a guy that's made offense work out of double tight end sets and playing tight formations. The guy that's made it work by spreading people out and then throwing the ball around, spreading people out and then running the football. I thought he was on a path. They were going to have a special year at Oregon this year if Herbert doesn't go down. I thought they had the opportunity to be in that running for the Pac-12 North if Herbert does not go down for him. So he's got 2 quarterbacks that are viable options in Blackman and then obviously DeAndre Francois once he's healthy. If there was Bailey Hockman, who apparently people I didn't realize were high on him, but maybe 3 viable options at the quarterback spot. Athletes for days in terms of wide receiving group. You've got defense that should step up and continue to make plays, even with some guys leaving for the next level. I think he is someone that Florida State fans are going to like. I think he's someone that Florida State players, the high school coaches, as well, are really going to embrace. So, I mean, this is a guy that really, I'm super hype about that because I know he's going to do the work in recruiting. I know he's going to do the work in relationship managing from a high school football coach's standpoint. I know he's going to do the work on the field. And I know his goal is to run the football with some power, but also be an agent of chaos in terms of what you do to defenses and stretch those guys thin.
All right, talking to Michael Felder, Bleacher Report here on the right time. Now, on that, I was just thinking about this. How much harder has Dabo Swinney made everybody's life by demonstrating I can win at Clemson, which I think makes everybody think they can win wherever they are?
I think it's tough. I think he has made it tough, and at the same time, I also think he's made life better for coordinators that are good because they're going to continue to get paid big money. And I also think that what he's done is make people pay a little bit more attention to sort of some of the details, some of the little things, sort of how you run your program. They recognize, and look, Florida State being as close to it as anybody else, they recognize that your coach does not have to be a jerk and a half for you to win football games. They see in their top competition for winning the Atlantic guy that people genuinely like to work with. I think that certainly is something that people are noticing and people pay attention to, because up until Dabo, what did you have to be? You had to be an Urban Meyer crazy workaholic, Nick Saban crazy workaholic, rude to the press. That's what you had to be in order to win. And so I think from an on-the-field standpoint with the school that he's having success at, one, I don't think a lot of people realize how special a place Clemson is. If you go and visit it as a football player, it certainly becomes a school that you are highly considering going to because of the way that community and the players, they all interact. But I also think Dabo's made it tough from hey, he's not that terrible of a dude, and people don't hate interviewing him, and he's not awful, so maybe we don't have to put up with this stuff.
You hear that, Tom Herman? That's Michael Felder, Bleacher Report. Check him out covering college football. Thanks so much, my man. I appreciate it.
It's always fun, Bo. You take it easy.
All right, man. You too. Coming up next, we're talking to Damien Woody about Eli being the starter again on ESPN Radio, the ESPN app, Sirius XM Channel 80.
The Right Time with Bomani Jones.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to The Right Time. My name is Bomani Jones. Thanks for listening on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app. All guests join us on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. Thanks to Michael Felder of Bleacher Report for joining us last segment. On with us now, covering the NFL for us here at ESPN. His name is Damien Woody. All right, Damien, you got your wish, man. Eli Manning's going to be the starting quarterback again for the Giants. Are you ready?
Man, at this point, what difference does it make, right? I mean, listen, we saw what happened last week with Geno. Yeah, actually, Geno didn't play bad. He had a couple fumbles, which has been a problem, but I think folks, everybody got what they wanted, got Eli back in the saddle, so, hooray for everybody else.
So how do you think the Giants should handle this, though? Because, they're not going to make Geno Smith their starting quarterback at any point in life, in all likelihood. Davis Webb is maybe the future, but he's not ready to play, at least according to them. So what should they be doing?
Honestly, I just think if now that you've named Eli Manning the starter, just ride out Eli for the rest of the season. You're going to have to just evaluate. You're going to have to evaluate the quarterback position after the season is over with. If Davis Webb is not ready to even get on the field to contribute, then to me that speaks volumes of where his development is at right now. And with the Giants picking, I think currently they're second in the draft order. They're going to be more than likely they're going to be picking one of those quarterbacks anyway. So just let Eli ride it out, and then you just work on that position in the offseason.
All right, talking to Damien Woody of ESPN here on The Right Time. Now, what did you think about the suspensions that were upheld and those that were turned down? Juju Smith-Schuster will be suspended. Gronk will be suspended. George Alokai will not.
Well, listen, I know a lot of people, as far as Gronk is concerned, a lot of people point to Mike Evans' suspension on that hit against Marshawn Lattimore, figuring that, okay, we gave Mike Evans one game, so we can't give Gronk more than one game. But, Bo, as I know, everything's about optics. So when you look at it, and Gronk gets one game for doing a WWE type play hit on Tre'Davious White for the Buffalo Bills, and then you look at the Juju Smith-Schuster play, which was an actual play during the game, and both those guys got one game suspension. You put them side by side, and you're thinking, how is this even right? Like, if the league is serious about protecting the shield, we hear that all the time about the league. Protect the shield, protect the shield. And you saw what Gronk did, which was no question a dirty play. I just don't see how you can have one guy, have Gronk with one game, but you got Juju Smith-Schuster with one game on a football play. It just doesn't make any sense to me.
Well, did you think that Juju should have been suspended at all?
I think the only reason he got suspended, was because he was standing over top of Burfict. I think that's what got him to play. Listen, the league is trying to legislate those type of plays out of the game, where you get the crackback type blocks. We've seen them before in the past. Hines Ward was notorious for breaking dudes' jaws doing that type of play. So the league is trying to get it out of the game. I just don't know how you're able to legislate those type of things out, man. When you're on the field, man, you're spazzing out just trying to, you're just trying to block your guy. You're trying to blow people up. So I don't know how the league is going to try to legislate that out. Suspension. It's just too hard for the league to try to eliminate that right now. That's something that's going to have to happen at the youth level as coaches teach these guys how to play the game in a more safer manner.
All right, talking to Damien Woody of ESPN here on The Right Time. What do you think about the Chiefs suspending Marcus Peters for one game, a game that they kind of need?
Well, I think this, where there's smoke, there's fire. This type of stuff, these type of actions by Marcus Peters have probably been going on for a while now. The difference is when they're winning, you sweep these type of things under the rug. He's supremely talented, and I've always said there's a sliding scale in sports. The more talented you are, the more leeway you get. But with the Chiefs right now, I think losing 5 straight, 6 out of the last 7, man, that's when the spotlight is shown on these type of things, man. And Marcus Peters, man, he just lost his cool in a critical time in the game, and ultimately the Jets won the game. So I think this is just Andy Reid just trying to kind of regain control of the situation. Because if you let one guy get away with it, man, the other guys in the locker room start looking like, man, this dude doesn't have any control over the locker room.
Are you ready for the return of Revis, though? Because I guess this means we're going to get a lot of Revis.
That's not going to be a good look, Bo. If anyone watched that game, I can't even use Russ. Russ would not be a good word because Revis is my guy, but, man, it looked like he had been out of the league for like 3 or 4 years. Dude missed like 2 or 3 easy tackles. I mean, he was playing like 12 yards off cushion. He was determined he wasn't going to get beat deep. And now you might have to press this man into more action at this time of season. Man, that's going to be a tall tale, man. A tall tale.
Did he just get old fast?
Man, when you made a lot of bread, Bo, sometimes you get comfortable. You get comfortable. You're not in the shape that you need to be in. And, once you hit 30, man, you're not running 4.3, 4.4 anymore. So you take all of that in consideration, and I think that's what you have with Revis, man. Listen, as far as business is concerned, who's played the business game better than Darrelle Revis? I don't know. Maybe Larry Fitzgerald, maybe, but I don't know if playing Revis a bunch of snaps is going to do him any good right now.
All right, that is Damien Woody. Check him out covering the NFL for us here at ESPN. Thanks so much, my man. I appreciate it.
All right, man. Take it easy.
All right, now ESPN Radio is presented by Progressive Insurance, creators of the Name Your Price tool. Choose from a range of coverage options to pick the price that works for you.
The Right Time with Bomani Jones.
My name is Bomani Jones. Thanks for listening on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app. All guests join us on the Shell Pencil Performance Line. Thanks to Damien Woody of ESPN for joining us last segment. Aaron Schatz of FootballOutsiders.com will join us in the 6 o'clock Eastern hour. Amazon is everything you need for the perfect holiday get-together, from whining to dining to reclining together afterwards. Visit Amazon today. All right, 888-729-3776. That's our telephone number, man. Some dude was in my mention saying he was on hold with his story about quitting playing football. Now it looked like he already hung up. That's unfortunate. Anyway, let's hit the phones. Talk to John in Illinois. John, thanks for calling the right time.
Hey, Bomani, love the show, man. Merry Christmas.
Thank you, man. You too.
Got a question for you. I don't quite understand how there's been basically no discussion between what the NFL dishes out in terms of penalty for Gronk's hit, which was basically borderline criminal, compared to like Zeke Elliott, who gets 6 games for basically what? That they don't even have any proof of anything that he necessarily did.
Yeah, apples and oranges, buddy. Thanks for the call. 888-729-3776. Joe in Georgia, thanks for calling the right time. Okay, Joe is not ready. Never mind. Here's something for you. Rafael Palmeiro said he want to make a comeback. No, I'm not even lying. The Athletic had this story where Rafael Palmeiro said that there's, quote, no doubt, unquote, in his mind that he could mount a comeback and be an effective player in the major leagues. He is 53 years old, and he says, I want to prove to myself I can do it on a high level. And, we had that whole thing with Palmeiro where he wagged his finger in front of Congress and then, failed the steroid test. Old school steroids, too. Winstraw. And, that's what Ben Johnson was using. And I think, Shannon, correct me if I'm wrong, isn't he still swearing that he wasn't really using?
He's sticking by it. He's going down with that excuse. So.
Samson Simpson, I stick to my story. Like, that's where he is on this one. Okay, here's the quote. He says, maybe 12 years later, if I could come back and prove I don't need anything as an older player with an older body, then people might think, okay, maybe he didn't do anything intentionally. Raffy, you think that coming back and playing effectively at 53 years old is going to make people think that you're not using? Like, you think we're just going to assume that you are the greatest natural athlete of all time? You can come back at 53 years old and play Major League Baseball, and that's what's going to convince us that you're not on that sauce? Are you serious? No, that will make us even more certain than ever that you on that sauce. One thing I hate, though, by the way, about Palmeiro and having his reputation being sullied the way it was by the performance-enhancing drugs is that it effectively disqualified him for the Hall of Fame, which was going to lead to one of the more fascinating Hall of Fame cases there ever was, which is Palmeiro had 3,200 hits. He had 569 home runs. Those are benchmarks that get everybody into the Hall of Fame, except he's not a Hall of Famer. Like, I would have loved to have seen how that would have gone when people finally made their call about whether or not to put him into the Hall of Fame, because never at any point in Rafael Palmeiro's career did any of us think that he was a Hall of Famer. That being said, Shannon, I don't know, like, we got the Homeboy Hall of Fame. What's the opposite of the Homeboy Hall of Fame? Because I feel like Will Clark would go into that one for what happened with him and Palmeiro back in, I think it was 93 or 94, whatever year that was, that Palmeiro was the first baseman for the Rangers and Will Clark in free agency took his job.
Not to mention having been college teammates, too.
Yes, yes.
Oh, boy.
Oh, man, Palmeiro was so salty after that happened. He was so salty after that happened. And then he went to Baltimore after that. And then Will Clark, I think his next job was in Baltimore. Like, their whole thing just wound up being Will Clark, by the way, my least favorite baseball player of all time. Oh, you didn't know that?
I didn't realize that, no.
Oh. Google Will Clark, Jeffrey Leonard. And let me know how that works out for you. Go ahead and give it a try, Shannon. See if it comes back by the end of the break. If you see what I see, you ain't got to tell them what it is. All right, 888-729-3776. Talk to Joe in Georgia. Joe, thanks for calling the right time.
Hey, Bomani, long-time listener. Am I on?
Thank you, man. Yeah, you're on.
Yeah, playing high school football in Houston, man. Growing up.
Hold on, what high school?
Joseph Adai.
What high school?
And run through the hole. I was playing fullback. Drove my blocker open, whatchamacallit. My boy runs down the field, running back. He's 50, 60 yards down the field. You know, lineman getting up, plays over around me, look at the coach, get the next play. Dude jumps and ear holes me, knocks me unconscious. The rule back then was he got to sit out for one play. I remember the lady clapping over my face, hearing everything like Charlie Brown. And the coach says, all right, come on, sit on the sideline for a second. Quarterback snaps the ball. He takes a knee. Coach goes, get back in there.
Did you go?
And I just kept playing.
Hold on. What high school did you go to?
West Side.
Oh, you went to West Side?
17-5A.
Ain't that something? Hey, man, glad you survived. Joe, appreciate the call. He ain't sound like an HISD football player. Shay, you know what I mean? 888-729-3776. Did you look up that Will Clark thing yet?
Yeah, that's unfortunate.
Yeah. I hate Will Clark. Ooh, I hate Will Clark. Hate. Let's hit the phone talk to Jerry in Pennsylvania. Jerry, thanks for calling the right time.
Hey, what's going on, Bo?
Doing all right?
Yeah, so I was a freshman, going into my freshman year of high school, and we got to practice with the older kids. Came across the middle of the field, and it was at the end of practice when, like, all the parents were coming to pick you up. So my mom was sitting there, and she didn't want me to play anyway. So I came across the field, got laid out. All I saw was this bright white light and just a ringing noise in my ears. So I walked off the field. My mom's like, you all right? I'm like, yeah, I'm good. So we're in the car driving home, and I was like, Mom, where are you going? This isn't the way to go to church. It's Sunday. We're supposed to go to church.
Ooh.
And she said it's Wednesday, and drove me right, instead of going to my house, drove me right to the hospital to get tested for a concussion.
Yeah, that's the end. That'll do it, Jerry. I appreciate the call. Yeah, when you start mixing up the days of the week, that's also how y'all be dressing for church. Like, you ain't look down at yourself and be like, I'm a little bit inadequate to go stand before the Lord. I mean, I don't even go to church like that, but I feel like you was showing real disrespect in your gear if you thought you was going to church. That's how you knew it was all bad, man. That's how you knew. Shannon, you look a little disappointed about this Will Clark news.
It's one of those things, you hear rumors all the time, and just to read something like that from back in the days, it's disappointing. It's unfortunate.
Yeah.
He had a sweet swing, though.
He did have a sweet swing. You notice how I always have to be the one to tell people this Will Clark story? Like, it doesn't, like, ever actually come up. Like, he just got to slide on that one. All we talk about is that sweet swing. And he owned Nolan Ryan. That's the one thing taking him to the grave. But, all right, coming up next. Oh, man, LaVar is not happy with the Los Angeles Lakers. But guess who he ain't got no beef with? ESPN Radio.
Thanks for listening to the Right Time Podcast. Please come back tomorrow for more. And don't forget to listen to The Right Time with Bomani Jones from 4 p.m. to 7 Eastern on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app.
Guys, wouldn't your wife or girlfriend love it if you treated her to the very best this Christmas? Now you can, with the world's softest pajamas by Pajamagram. Created by a team of pajama experts, the world's softest PJs are lighter than a cloud, softer than a bunny, like cashmere, only better. She'll love how heavenly they feel. Includes free gift packaging and Christmas delivery is guaranteed. So visit pajamagram.com or call 1-800-GIVE-PJs.
Welcome to the Right Time Podcast. The Right Time with Bomani Jones.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to The Right Time. My name is Bomani Jones. Thanks for listening on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app. We are presented by Progressive Insurance. You can send us a tweet at the 1-800-Flowers.com Twitter feed. That is at Bomani_Jones. Still taking y'all phone calls about that day you realized football wasn't going to be the thing for you. Those stories are always entertaining. 888-729-3776. That is our telephone number. So we have a LaVar Lonzo story here. I know some of you guys pretend like you don't find these things to be interesting. But what I find to be interesting about LaVar is LaVar often makes very good points. And then there'll always be that one thing that he says where you're like, oh, dude, what are you talking about, man? Come on now. What are you talking about? Now, Lonzo, that's what I'm talking about, the one that's actually in the NBA. Lonzo has not been that good this year. Now, granted, point guards have a bit of an adjustment into the league, and Lonzo was suffering from that. He's also got to deal with the adjustment and try to figure out how to play in the NBA when you can't shoot. And I think a level that's been lost in this, not just that he can't shoot, but the fact that the three-point line is farther back. Lonzo shot something like 41% from three while he was at UCLA. That step back from the college three-point line to the NBA three-point line is a real one. And I wonder if that's as much as anything else what is in his head, because like the shots that he was able to make, nobody really cares about those. To be fair, also, he can't even make those shots. But anyway, you know LaVar got all the answers. LaVar has all the answers of what they're doing, and he does not think that Lonzo is being coached properly. So here he is on SiriusXM NBA radio saying how the Lakers should coach Lonzo.
They got to stop saying, oh, he's young, he's only a rookie, he'll figure it out. No, it ain't about figuring it out. It's about them holding him accountable. Say, you know what, Lonzo, it's 12 minutes left. Say this in the huddle in front of everybody. It's 12 minutes left. We're going to follow your coattails and see what you do to get us this win. Go get us this win. It's 12 minutes left. Go get it for us. It's enough time. But they got to play him the whole fourth quarter and let him have his hands on the game.
Now, one of the more interesting things I think about LaVar and his criticisms of how the Lakers have handled him is he believes the Lakers should be tougher on him. And it sounds like LaVar's approach in a circumstance like this is, hey, you got to go out here and get this done. Down because you can't get this done is more so you have to be the guy to go and get this done. And I think the part of where LaVar comes from where this gets to be interesting is, hey, man, Magic came out here and said that Lonzo was going to be the guy to lead the Lakers back to greatness. They said that he was that guy. I would make the argument that Magic Johnson has put as much pressure on Lonzo Ball as LaVar has, because Magic has basically echoed all the things that LaVar has had to say. And Magic, unlike LaVar, is not his daddy. Like, you don't just discount that as being something that somebody's father would say. Magic has been the one to been like, yo, we expect to see your jersey in the rafters. Do you realize who the people are that had their jerseys in the rafters for the Lakers? Like, the worst player to have his jersey retired for the Lakers is who? Gail Goodrich? Well, Gail Goodrich and James Worthy are the bottom tier of jersey retirements with the Lakers. Otherwise, who are we talking about? George Mikan, who's his own case, because back in the day. We're talking about Mikan, Elgin Baylor, Jerry West, Wilt Chamberlain, Shaq, Kobe Bryant. Like, that's who Kareem, sorry. How did I forget that guy? That's who we're talking about here. And Magic is like, you're going to be the next one that's there. Yeah, that's the same level of pressure, and I would have somewhat of an understanding as to why it is that you would think that it's off, that you say that he's that guy, but then he only plays but so much in fourth quarters. Of course, the flip side of it is Lonzo has not been good. Now, of course, LaVar's got all kinds of answers as to why it is that Lonzo has not been good. And, of course, you know, who does he think people need to listen to?
He's not used to losing like this. This is an easy, fixable thing if everybody would just drop their egos and just listen to what I'm saying. I had to force this issue on the high school. And then when they finally got the picture, they went 35-0. I had to force the same issue on UCLA. Everybody should listen. That's on the Laker. The whole Laker thing should listen. Build it around Lonzo. You're going to be successful. But that sounds too bold.
So Magic's not doing the right thing?
Magic's always doing the right thing. Me and him got a nice communication, but it's the coach out there. Luke Walton is doing what he's doing. Just like playing Lonzo in and out. Play him a few minutes here. They wonder why his legs is toe up. Because they're running him 100 miles an hour, then they sit him down for 10 minutes.
Hold up. First of all, I want you to play that again, and I'm going to tell you when to pause on it. Play that one more time.
He's not used to losing like this. This is an easy, fixable thing if everybody would just drop their egos and just listen to what I'm saying.
Stop right there. Stop right there. Shannon, you like that? It's an easy, fixable thing if everybody would just drop their egos and listen to me.
He has all the answers, and he knows how to coach his boy.
Yeah, I mean, he might, but there's something hilarious about. But listen to me. Play that. Play for where we stop.
I had to force this issue on the high school, and then when they finally got the picture, they went 35-0. I had to force the same issue on UCLA. Everybody should listen. That's on the Laker. The whole Laker thing should listen.
All right, stop right there. Stop right there. When's the last time, Shannon, you think that Lonzo had a coach that LaVar thought knew what he was doing?
Not named LaVar?
Yes. Not named LaVar, correct. He's like, I had a problem with the high school coach. I had a problem with the college coach. When's the last time there was a coach and he was like, nah, he good? Anyway, keep on playing that.
Around Lonzo, you're going to be successful, but that sounds too bold.
So Magic's not doing the right thing?
Magic's always doing the right thing. Me and him got a nice communication, but it's the coach out there.
Stop right there. LaVar might be crazy, but he ain't stupid. He ain't saying bad word the first about Magic. He knows this whole thing falls apart. He started talking bad about Magic. Magic had somebody call him in. Like, I imagine Magic like Michael Jackson. Like, you remember they tell the story, Shannon, was it The Way You Make Me Feel video where Michael Jackson was out there on the street taking pictures with the Crips and the Bloods? Because even they were like, yo, I'm trying to get into Michael Jackson video. I feel like that's how Magic got to be on these streets.
And in that video shoot, Mike up there throwing up his fingers. Who's going to correct Mike, though? Who's going to tell Mike he couldn't do it?
What voice do you think Mike had when he was using to talk to them, by the way? Do you think that he had that voice that he had when his friends would come over to play on the Ferris wheel? Or you think Mike had that voice he had when it's time to make this money? I'm going to tell you this one more time. Ain't going to be no set tripping out here. Hey, can we get the video started? Rest in peace, Mike. Play it. Keep playing.
Luke Walton is doing what he's doing. Just like playing Lonzo in and out. Play him a few minutes here. They wonder why his legs is toe up. Because they're running him 100 miles an hour, then they sit him down for 10 minutes.
So he's putting it on Luke Walton, son of UCLA great Bill Walton. He is putting this on Luke Walton. By the way, Shannon, do we know if Luke Walton can coach? Because I feel like we don't know if Luke Walton can coach. We're giving him a whole lot of credit for what he did as a substitute teacher when Draymond was the coach.
I think a lot of that is still to be determined. Actually, to your point, he coached the Warriors for that stretch, and he's going through a rebuilding process with the Lakers. So for Luke, it's still a to be determined.
Yeah, but I do. If Lonzo's going to be your guy in the way that they say Lonzo's going to be the guy. Now, the Lakers are also in another situation here where they don't have their draft pick this year, so there's no value in losing, so they can't just roll the ball out there to him and be like, we're going to take the lumps, I suppose. But maybe they should. Like, I mean, I wonder where that comes up. And I don't have any correction for what you do about the fact that homeboy can't shoot. I don't know what you do. By the way, LaVar had more to say about Luke Walton.
If you say, this guy is my franchise player, and every start of the fourth quarter, you tell me you're not going to start him?
What has he done to show that he should start so far, the fourth quarter?
What he's done, go back in the archives and see the ones that he started and played all the fourth quarter. We've been trying it their way, and that's why the record is raggedy. Mm-hmm. So let's try it our way now and watch how we should be successful. Right now, this is how they plan. The plan is 40-60. They're doing 40% Lonzo with the ball in his hand, the other 60, the other team doing what they want. It got to turn to 80-20.
I just wanted to play that because he said that's why the record is raggedy. Raggedy is one of the greatest words in the English language. No one ever used raggedy just in the course of a discussion. Raggedy is only used for effect. Like, when you say something is raggedy, everybody got to stop and be like, damn, you said it was raggedy? Like, play that one more time.
If you say, this guy is my franchise player, and every start of the fourth quarter, you tell me you're not going to start him?
What has he done to show that he should start so far, the fourth quarter?
what he's done. Go back in the archives and see the ones that he started and played all the fourth quarter. We've been trying it their way, and that's why the record is raggedy.
All right, stop it there. That's why the record is raggedy. Raggedy. I wish he had told Chromo that he thought that he was raggedy. Imagine that one, Shannon, because remember, he ain't saying nothing bad about Trump on TV neither. Imagine if he said it's about Trump. We've been trying to do it his way. That's why the record is raggedy. That would be on T-shirts.
Raggedy, that crosses so many generations as well. Like, you hear something raggedy, everybody knows right away what that means.
Yes, and raggedy, which can be shortened to Ragley. Now, granted, raggedy doesn't have an L, but it can still be made into Ragley. Anyway, 888-729-3776, that's our telephone number. You boys got your stories about when y'all quit playing football and started Marvin in New Orleans. Marvin, thanks for calling the right time.
Hey, what's up, folks?
Doing all right?
Yeah, I got a own story. Look, well, down here in New Orleans, like before the storm, what they used to do for the public, they always used to let, us play a certain amount of games in the Superdome. Well, there's one time we had a game in the Superdome my freshman year. I was on kickoff team. And, first game starting in a dome. Like, I went full lock. I got me some new kicks. I was ready. Bang, kickoff, first play. So I ran down on kickoff, thinking I'm about to, and I see the dude, I got to go tackle. I see the dude, I have to go tackle. All I remember seeing after that was the lights. Dude came back and cracked back me so hard. And then I just remember just laying on the turf in the dome, just looking up in the sky and seeing lights. And my coach and the trainer came over to me, and the dude was like, hey, man, wow, you all right? And I'm like, yeah. And they was like, man, where you at? And I was like, man, I'm in the lakefront arena. I was in the dome.
That was it?
I was in the dome, but I just remember sitting on the sideline after. But I got blown up because I remember the craziest thing about that. The next week, you go back and rewatch the game with everybody. Like, my coach replayed it like twice of me getting cracked back because he's talking about, like, you see, at least he had good lane discipline. But I got my clock clean. But I mean, I ain't quit. I ain't no punk. I ain't quit. But I just remember they stuck me. I remember that. But that was the worst part, man. He kept throwing it back. Let me say one thing about Will Clark. Will Clark is an idiot, and his brother Jack Clark is an idiot. All you need to know about Will Clark and Jack Clark is Jack Clark said Tony Gwynn was selfish. Jack Clark and Will Clark are both idiots. I just need to get that out there because I hate Will Clark and Jack Clark.
Oh, good. Appreciate it. I don't think they're brothers, but whatever. ESPN Radio is presented by Progressive Insurance. We'll compare rates for you so you get the best deal, even if it's not with us, saving you time and money. Now, that's Progressive. Call or click today. Coming up next, we got your phone calls and a real-life pros versus Joes. You're listening to ESPN Radio, the ESPN app, Sirius XM Channel 80.
The Right Time with Bomani Jones.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to The Right Time. Turn it up, man. We are presented by Progressive Insurance. Aaron Schatz, FootballOutsiders.com, will join us next segment. Aaron Schatz will join us at 6:30 Eastern. Talk about that Eagles-Rams matchup that's coming up. That's also a song of the day. Backdoor Santa, Clarence Carter, which Shannon searched for on Google and types out the whole word so that we don't have no problems with the IT emergency squad. Boop, 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 boop.
I don't think I've ever typed the word Clarence so fast.
Yes, it's a very good move. Although I have to admit, with me and Clarence Carter, it doesn't matter what song I hear. I only think of one song. It isn't this one. It isn't Stroking. It's the saddest song ever, Shannon. Patches? Patches is the saddest thing in the world. He sang that so hard. Patches? It was hard up for him, man. 888-729-3776. That is our telephone number. You boys calling in with them stories about that time you got hit playing football and decided you ain't want that no more. Let's talk to Steve in Florida. Steve, thanks for calling the right time.
Hey, Bomani. Thanks for having me on.
Yes, sir.
So I played golf, and in 7th grade I decided, all right, well, we can't play high school sports until 9th grade, so I'll play football. That sounds like fun. So in 7th grade, they put the middle schoolers all by weight, and I was 5'6", 190, and not particularly muscular. So I go out for football, and they put me on the varsity team because of my size. First day of practice, we go up in a tackling drill against a kid named Jamar Brittingham, who played and set the Division III rushing record. And he was probably 6 foot 210 already and strong. First tackling drill, he tackles me so hard I break my left hand. So I'm done for 7th grade. So 8th grade rolls around, and I get to 8th grade, and now I'm 6'2", 170. Feel much better about myself. So we go off for practice, and I'm like, all right, I'm going to try it again this year. I'll do it again. Why not? It's been fun. Second day of practice, we're doing tackling drills, and I got to go against Jamar again. And he comes around the corner and hits me so hard I break my left collarbone.
Yikes!
Those were I've done 2 years, and 2 years of football. I made it 3 days total, and I went back to playing golf.
Dang,
and that was the last time I touched a football field.
Did y'all have beef?
No. He was just really, really strong. He made plays in high school football in Pennsylvania that were just obscene. He was a freak. But they should have made an exception to not let him play in middle school because he just destroyed kids. Didn't matter if it was on his team or not. And I came home, second day of practice. My mom looked at me. I couldn't lift my left arm up. She goes, "What's wrong?" I said, "We have to go to the hospital again." And then she said, "You should stick to golf. You're much better at that."
Yep, smart play. Hey, Steve, man, I appreciate the call. 888-729-3776. That is our telephone number. All right, so Shannon brought something to my attention that is amazing. And what we got here is the American Flag Football League. They announced it this week. It's going to be the American Idol of flag football. They're going to have $2 million in prizes. It'll have a 1,024-team tournament to get the best flag football team that's out there. And there will be registered amateur squads, but also 4 professional clubs, as they call them. And who do we have? One of them will be captained by Michael Vick. One will be captained by Ocho Cinco. One will be captained by Marshall Faulk. And the other, former University of Washington defensive back, Nate Robinson. Now, you may remember Nate Robinson as a basketball player. I remember Nate Robinson as a stay-ready all-star. That's what I remember Nate Robinson as a stay-ready all-star. Shannon, would you participate in this? Because I don't think I would participate in this.
No, I had to cut you off. No, not even doing it. Nope, flag football. No, I'm good. No, I never wanted to go out there and put my skill up against a pro athlete. Nope, I'm good.
Well,
Robinson, nope, I'm good.
I'm actually more worried about these Joes than I am with the pros. You didn't play with us that time at 850 The Buzz where we got the flag football team for free, did you?
Oh, no, I wasn't invited to all the reindeer games.
I used to work at a radio station, and we had a sponsorship deal with some flag football league, and they put us in there to play flag football, and we were not a collection of athletic specimens. We were a collection of people who worked at a sports talk radio station. It's not like ESPN, where ESPN got a whole bunch of people walking around in good shape. They be going down to the gym, getting it right. We had no gym at the radio station. We had a bunch of dudes who was too busy at the radio station to go to the gym. So anyway, we went out there. Man, I remember we looked at the team on the other side. Man, these dudes had wristbands with the plays on them. And I'm like, yo, y'all are taking this way too seriously. And then it reminded me of, I got a haircut. My parents worked at Prairie View A&M University when I was growing up, and one of my mama's students took me to get a haircut on campus. And I remember that we get into the dude's room to cut my hair, and the dude who took me there was asking the dude who cut my hair and was asking him how many dimes he could get out of an ounce. And I didn't really understand what it was that he meant at the time, but I knew what that smell was. That smell was weed. And I'll never forget, man, some dude walked in that room. He was high as a Georgia pine, and he got to talking about playing flag football. And he said, Shannon, they was wearing mouthpieces because they flag football was so intense. Because all flag football means that you can't tackle, but you can still run up on somebody like you're going to tackle them and everything else. And I do also remember that was when Prairie View had the losing streak, and that dude was like, man, I saw the coach out there driving that Lexus. Like, we ain't got no coach. I'm the coach. Those are the people that are going to be in this flag football league. I don't think you want any parts of these people that are in this flag football league.
And the winning game, the championship game, they're going to be the grand prize, $1 million. These dudes are playing for $1 million.
No, that's too much. That's too much. There's going to be a level of intensity that I feel like we don't really need out there. And the most intense person out there is going to be Nate Robinson. Because at least these other cats that are professionals, they done tasted, they had their football success. This is Nate Robinson's last chance, baby. This is it.
And we talked about the last couple summers how much we love the basketball tournament.
Yes.
The idea of having this open tournament, and they play for $1 million. I think it might even be up to $2 million now. So now they have the equivalent of that in football, and you say it's a non-contact sport being flag football? Oh, no.
Bad news.
No.
Bad news.
I don't know if they're going to implement the college targeting rule or not in this flag football tournament, but I think they need to.
Bad news.
Playing for $1 million?
Bad news. Bad news. All right, coming up next, we're going to talk about the Eagles-Rams matchup and other football-related topics with Aaron Schatz, Football Outsiders on ESPN Radio, the ESPN app, Sirius XM Channel 80.
The Right Time with Bomani Jones.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to The Right Time. My name is Bomani Jones. Thanks for listening on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app. All guests join us on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line, just like our next guest. Check him out at footballoutsiders.com. Also check his columns out on ESPN.com. His name is Aaron Schatz. All right, Aaron, the Chiefs have come all the way down to 6-6. What chance is there that they can still win that division?
All right, so here's the thing. I still think the Chiefs are the favorites in that division, not because they're playing the best football right now, but the schedule is so in their favor. The two division games that they have the next 2 weeks, Oakland and the Chargers, that's the two teams that are challenging them, and both of those games are at Arrowhead. And then they play the Dolphins and Broncos, who by Football Outsiders numbers are the two worst teams in the NFL right now, slightly worse than the winless Cleveland Browns. And as bad as this Kansas City losing streak has been, remember that the last 3 games, they've lost by only 1 score apiece. A lot of these losses have been close. So against bad opponents like Miami and Denver, I don't think it's going to matter much. As long as they beat Miami and Denver and win one of the next 2 against the Raiders or Chargers, I think Kansas City is still in the playoffs.
Now, do you think the Marcus Peters suspension for this week will matter much?
I do. I mean, Oakland should have good receivers. Amari Cooper is one of those guys who just makes you scratch your head. Sometimes he just makes amazing plays. Sometimes he just drops everything that comes his way. But I mean, you can't say that it won't affect you to lose the best cornerback on your team and one of the best cornerbacks in the NFL. But I don't think it's as important as the fact that the game is in Kansas City and not in Oakland.
All right, talking to Aaron Schatz of footballoutsiders.com here on The Right Time. So we got the Eagles and the Rams on Sunday. First, what did we see from the Eagles? Is this a team that once they play against a good opponent is just not as good as maybe we thought?
No, I don't think you can say that. There was a lot of like random chance that went against them. Obviously, the touchback fumble, a couple of fourth down failures. It was an interesting thing. We looked at this for our Any Given Sunday column on Football Outsiders, where we look at the upset of the week, and noticed that Seattle played a ton of cover 1 defense, which is not what they're known for. They're known for playing cover 3, and so Philly wasn't quite sure what to do with that for the first half of the game. And once they figured out what Seattle was doing, the offense got a lot more back on track in the second half. So I think in the long run, Philly's still one of the top teams in the league.
All right, talking to Aaron Schatz, footballoutsiders.com, here on The Right Time. But now the matchup with the Rams, how do you look at that one?
Well, first of all, I have to point out that these are the top 2 teams in the Football Outsiders DVOA ratings, and they're basically tied. So this is sort of for the championship of our advanced stats, and I don't think we've ever had a game before where the top 2 teams were essentially tied going into a game against each other. But one of the things I think in this matchup that stands out is the pressure. Obviously, both of these teams bring a lot of pressure on defense, but the Rams can absorb that pressure well. The Eagles, I'm not sure. Okay, the Eagles in adjusted sack rate are an average team, and in pressure rate allowed, they're actually 28th in the NFL by Sports Info Solutions charting. So, I mean, both teams will bring pressure, but I think there's going to be more of it brought by the Rams on the Eagles, and Wentz is going to have to make plays under pressure. And he has for a lot of this year, but this is a lot of pressure because it's not like in previous games he's ever faced Aaron Donald before.
All right, talking to Aaron Schatz, footballoutsiders.com here on The Right Time. We got another 100-yard game for Antonio Brown this weekend. Do you think he's an MVP candidate?
I would say if I had 10 votes on a ballot, he would absolutely be one of them. If I had 5 votes, he might be the 5th one. If I had 1 vote, no. It's just the NFL as a sport is so directed by the quarterback. The quarterback plays such a more important role on the offense than any other player that I think it's really difficult to pick an MVP who's not a quarterback because the quarterback in general just has more value than players at other positions. But Antonio Brown is the best wide receiver in the game. You know, it's funny. We did something a couple years ago where we split deep passes and short passes. And the best receiver in the game at short passes was Antonio Brown. And the best receiver at deep passes was Antonio Brown. And nobody else was in the top 10 for both.
Do you have Jerry Rice thoughts of him as in competition for the greatest?
My comparison of Antonio Brown to Jerry Rice is equal to my comparison of Rob Gronkowski to Tony Gonzalez. Let me know when he does it for another 10 years.
We were talking to Aaron Schatz of FootballOutsiders.com here on the right time. Now, we've got Pittsburgh and Baltimore. Now, Baltimore's record is not that great. Their point differential, however, is pretty good. How good do you think they are?
Yeah, they do really well in our ratings. We actually have Baltimore fifth this week, which seems sort of shocking. They're number one on defense. They're number one on special teams. People always sleep on just how much value they get out of special teams. They're number 23 on offense, which is bad but not horrific. Now, they're helped a little bit by the fact that, you know, they've played a lot of backup quarterbacks, right? And when you do a rating system like we do and you adjust for opponent, it's tough to split and adjust it between the starter and the backup. So we know they played Houston, but they played Houston with Savage, not Watson. They played Green Bay, but, they played Green Bay with Hundley, not Rodgers. But I think that if you look overall, they played DJ Manuel also. But even if that adjusts them downwards, it would only adjust them downwards to like seventh or something. It's still the best defense in the league this year. It's still the best special teams in the league this year. I know people are sleeping on them, but teams can win with defense and special teams. We've seen it. We've seen Baltimore do it.
Well, are we sleeping on them, or are we just really, really down on Joe Flacco?
Probably the latter. And I'm not going to pretend that I'm not really, really down on Joe Flacco. It's a disappointment how much Joe Flacco has declined since that Super Bowl season. But I still think that Flacco, the inconsistency is a bonus. You'd rather have a bad quarterback be inconsistent, because if a bad quarterback is inconsistent, then you never know when he's going to suddenly have a good game or two. And I think that both Flacco and Blake Bortles are sort of in that category where they could go on a run in the postseason. And if they do, both of those defenses are good enough for those teams to go far.
That's how people talk themselves into Rex Grossman, by the way, but Rex Grossman got himself into a Super Bowl. So there's
Well,
that.
you don't talk yourself into all you talk yourself is into the possibility. But Rex Grossman didn't get himself to a Super Bowl. Rex Grossman got dragged kicking and screaming to a Super Bowl by Lance Briggs and Charles Tillman and Brian Urlacher. It was not really through his own doing.
But the nature of this stuff, though, is in that same Super Bowl when the playoffs came around, the Colts defense shockingly did the same thing with Peyton Manning.
Well, the Colts defense didn't do that with Peyton Manning in 2006, but the Broncos defense did it with him a couple of years ago. Manning was awesome in 2006 in the playoffs. That defense came together with Bob Sanders finally healthy. But it's not like Manning was not Manning in the playoffs. He still was. It's 2 years ago that Manning suddenly turned into, well, Joe Flacco.
Yeah, no, that was definitely a drag. But that was just the weird one, though, where the Colts defense couldn't stop anybody from running in 2006, and then Bob Sanders came back, and they turned into the steel curtain.
It destroys any attempt we do at analytics of bad defenses and what they're going to do in the playoffs. The 2006 Colts are just the outlier of all outliers, and they destroy any possibility of figuring out patterns.
All right. That is Aaron Schatz. Check him out, FootballOutsiders.com. Also, check his columns out at ESPN.com. My man, thanks so much. I appreciate it.
Talk to you next week.
Yes, sir. During the hectic holidays, skip the mall and visit 1-800-Flowers.com. Right now, 1-800-Flowers is offering a special 24 for 24 offer. 24 holiday lights, roses for just $24. To order now, go to 1-800-Flowers.com/ESPN.
The Right Time with Bomani Jones.
All right, the NFL is considering adopting college football's targeting rule in which a player can be ejected if he deemed that he was targeting the opponent. If you haven't heard, here's Bomani Jones earlier today on The Right Time discussing the proposed rule change.
Coaches, general managers, and the owners and the players, all of them do not want players ejected from games unless there's no option. But the problem is you're going to wind up suspending them in many of these cases. Like, if you try to come up with a penalty to make this stop, I don't know if there's any way that you can go about doing it that isn't going too far. I really don't have an answer for that. I don't. Because I look at these things like Gronk, I thought probably should have gotten more than a one-game suspension. After seeing that Juju Smith-Schuster got the one-game suspension for that, I don't see how you could have it where you say that what Gronk did was the same as that. There's no way that you'll ever be able to convince me of that one. They went too soft on Gronk with the suspension. But again, Troy Vincent said they didn't really have a set of rules, and he thought that what they did was firm and it was fair, but they did not want to be excessive. And I'm trying to figure out when it is that the NFL started laying down penalties and saying they were worried about whether or not they were going to be excessive. They just make this stuff up. Like, it's all reactionary policy. And so what I feel like they're ultimately going to need in this situation, you need somebody with some level of vision and foresight to chart the path of where this stuff is going to go and try to figure out a strategy to get to where you want to go. What you can't have is a really ugly-looking game on Monday night, national television. We have talked many times about how national television changed the game in all kinds of ways. But you can't have a situation where there's a nasty game on national television, and that's the thing that flips up all the policy. They got to start from some initial place with some real live thought process and then go from there to get to what they think is going to be their ultimate goal. But what they keep doing is what they've always done. It's the same thing the NCAA does, which is reactionary policy making. And the last thing you want anybody to say about the way that you conduct your business and the way that you handle your policies is like, oh yeah, they do it just like the NCAA. Like, that's not the model. That's not the people to whom you wish to be immediately compared. That's not it. But that's where they are now. That's what this has come to. Why? Because they're like, yo, they want us to make this safer, but this stuff ain't safe.
I really don't see NFL GMs and coaches getting behind this, to be honest with you. Losing players on these questionable hits, I don't see them getting behind this.
No, everybody will look at it from the standpoint of their own guy. But, I mean, I'm just the Juju one in particular. It's so wild how quickly that went from what we wanted to what we hated. Just like that. He didn't even hit him in the head.
It was in that strike zone, right?
It was everything they say it's supposed to be. We want a good, clean hit.
Uh-huh.
But I guess head on a swivel isn't the thing anymore.
But his head was up with the shoulders, hit him in the strike zone, but still got the one-game suspension.
Yikes.
I don't know. All right, Eli Manning, newly minted Giants starting quarterback, Eli Manning. He had his jersey sales went up after he was benched last week. According to our Darren Ravel, his jersey sales went up from 30th in the league prior to getting benched to 14th. So he had the 14th best-selling jersey after he was benched last week prior to the Raiders game.
I mean, how do you not feel like a loser? Like, when you do this, first of all, Eli Manning been playing for the Giants. This is his 14th year. What the hell were you waiting on to buy your Eli Manning jersey if you didn't decide you were going to do it until they put him on the oak after he had been pretty stinky this year? Like, you don't feel like a loser?
For me, what I found more surprising than the 14th was the fact that he was still 30th. Like, he was 30th prior.
I guess New York's a big place, right? Like, I guess that's what it comes down to.
But to your point, he's been there since 2004. Like, if you hadn't got the Eli jersey after the 2 Super Bowls, why do it now?
Right. You don't want Evan Ingram? He's going to be around for a while. You're going to wear that Eli jersey once.
All right, moving on. I know we discussed it earlier with Michael Felder of the Bleacher Report, but I wanted to get your opinion on it. Arkansas signing Chad Morris as their head coach. Morris went 14-22 at SMU in his 3 years there.
No, I think this is a much better play for Arkansas than it is for Chad Morris. Because, again, man, you could do everything you're supposed to and actually do better than someone thought you should have done and mess around and go 7-5 at Arkansas. Can you parlay 7-5 at Arkansas into a better job? Maybe you can do that like after 1 year or something like that. But no. I don't think this was the job for him to jump and take. But for Arkansas, if you're going to win at Arkansas, you got to score points. Like, Petrino managed to get this done. You even take it back to, like, the Wishbone days. Like, you're going to have to put up some points to win at Arkansas because you can't recruit the athletes to make a great defense. And I think Chad's going to put up some points.
And no problem with the record, though. I guess we just account that to be SMU.
They were pretty bad when he got there. I think they won 7 games last year. I've seen his work at Clemson, I believe.
Yeah, he was 2-10 first season, 5-7 second season. He went 7-5 this year.
Yeah, no, I believe in what I saw from him at Clemson.
All right, and last and certainly not least, Secret Santa couple pays off $10,000 in layaway orders in Maine. Representatives for a Maine Toys R Us store say a husband and wife stopped in and paid off $10,000 in layaway orders for other families.
Man, I thought that's really dope when people do that. It really, really is. And I wonder after they do that, how many people go put something else on layaway. I mean, I would.
The same people who had their layaway orders paid off?
Yeah, I'm like, I need to hold this down. I mean, I still get paid on Friday. Now the kids can get 2 gifts. But, ladies and gentlemen, thanks so much for joining us here on The Right Time. We do this every weekday, 4 p.m. Eastern.
Thanks for listening to The Right Time podcast. Please come back tomorrow for more. And don't forget to listen to The Right Time with Bomani Jones from 4 p.m. to 7 Eastern on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app.